Okay, so we're moving on to video 2, and this is finding a part. So it's really important. You're not always going to have the problem spelled out for you where you know you're looking for a percent, you know you're looking for a part. So it is important that you read these carefully when you set up your proportion. But the main thing is to know that with any percent, you can set up a proportion to help you solve problems involving percents. So it says a dress that normally costs $38.50 is on sale for 30% off. What is the sale price of the shirt? So when we're talking about something like this, we're finding out a percentage of that $38.50, and it's on sale for 30% off. So I'm going to do just one extra step to kind of figure out how much I'd actually pay. So in my head, to make this problem simpler for me, I look at 30% off. 30% off of 100% of the regular price, I'd be paying 70% of the regular price. So if I'm finding the sale price, I would just use 70 as my percent. So for my proportion, I would have 70 over 100, and I'm finding the sale price of that $38.50. So the $38.50 would go on the bottom. That's the whole. I'm finding the part, the sale price. And you can use whatever variable you want. You could use P for sale price. You could use X. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to use P to represent sale price. So P. So I'd have 100P equals 70 times 38.50. And it's going to be $2,695. All right. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 100. And then P equals $26.95. Again, if you have some way of solving this in a way that you think is more efficient, fine, that's great. I'm not going to stand in your way. I want to show you that how percents connect to proportions and how you can use proportions as a consistent way of solving percent problems. So in this next example, again, whatever method you guys want, use it. I'm going to pause the video so that you can work through it and then check your answers with me in a few seconds. Okay, so to explain this, it's kind of like the sale price one. It says a family sells a car to a dealership for 60% less than they paid for it. They paid $9,000 for the car. For what price did they sell it? So cars lose value. So this car lost 60% of its value, meaning it's worth 40% of its original value. So to find what they sold it for, I use 40 as my percent over 100, and that price was out of $9,000. So I set up my proportion, cross-multiplied, got my equation. $3,600 was the price they sold the car for. Moving ahead, finding a base. Now, this is where that is over of kind of comes in again, where I talk about is over of. So it's still important you read it. You don't just say is on top, always of, always on the bottom. You got to read through it and understand what we're looking for. So it says 125% of what number is 17.5. So for that, I'm going to have my side with 100% always, and then I'm given 125%, so that goes on the top. Yeah, it's possible for there to be more than 100% of something, okay? There's percent increases of things. When you represent a percent increase, that percent is over 100%. So this says what 125% of what number is 17.5? Is 17.5 will go on the top, and this is the whole on the bottom. So cross multiply, it's 125x equals 17.5 times 100. So 1750. Okay. divide both sides by that 125, I get 14. Okay? So this seems kind of weird because we got a smaller number in the end. But if we think about it, 125% of 14 is 17.5. That should make sense because 125% is bigger than 100%. So in this next example, this is a good one for you to try without my help. Work through it and then check your answer with me in a few seconds. Okay, so in this problem again, we're finding the whole. So it says 30% of what number is 12.5. And again, using these different things, it's fine. We're going to use proportions each time. I don't want to teach you two methods because I feel like the other method, I feel like it would be more confusing. If you think you'd like to learn that other method, you're welcome to ask me, but I wanted to show you one method to keep it consistent. If you want another method, contact me and let me know and I will work through that with you. Okay, so this one is 12.5. So 12.5 will go on the top. Our whole will go on the bottom. 30% over 100%. So that 100% is always the part of the proportion you know to set up. I cross multiply, I divide. I got 41.6 repeating. I would accept either of those, even if you gave me 41.67. That's fine. The main thing is that you know how to set it up and solve it. And I will know that if you give me one of these types of answers. So on the checkpoints, you may get marked wrong for something. I usually go back and manually grade it. So just keep that in mind. Okay? And the last one. This is a good one because we're getting to money using simple interest. So it says you deposited $840 in a savings account that earns simple interest rate of 4.5% per year. You want to keep the money in the account for 4 years. How much interest will you earn? So in these problems, it is important for you to define your principal, your starting value, your interest rate, and your time. And basically all you're doing is multiplying those three numbers. So you deposit $840. That is your principal. That is your starting value of money. Your interest rate of 4.5% is your interest rate as a decimal. So 4.5% as a decimal is 0.045. It's important that we put that as a decimal. And we want to keep it in for 4 years, so time is 4. So to find out the interest I earn, I take 840 times 0.045 times 4. So the interest I earn, I'm going to have to use my calculator for that, times 0.045 times 4. The interest I earn is $151.20. So the main thing here, and the main thing that I'm anticipating that people sometimes struggle with at the beginning, is how to convert the percent to the decimal. So if you have troubles with that, let me know. Basically, the way you convert a percent to a decimal is you take that percent and you divide it by 100, which essentially just takes the decimal point and moves it to the left 2. Okay, so that's how you'd convert a percent to a decimal. So that's the interest you earn on that account. We'll talk more about interest a few units down the road. We'll talk about that more in depth. So again, to finish this out, please work through this last one. Check in your answer with me in a few seconds, and I'll have you move on to the practice. Okay, so for this final problem, I kind of threw a curveball at you. I gave you your principal of 125. I gave you the interest rate, which as a decimal is 0.0175. You earned interest, so I gave you interest, but you were looking for time. So this is different from the last problem. So we're looking for time. We're trying to find out time, t. So I defined all my variables on the left, showed what I needed, and then I substituted those in. So I was 8.75, p, principal, was 125, my rate, and then time was just t. So to solve that, I multiplied 125 by 0.0175. I got 2.1875 times t. I divided both sides by 2.1875. I got exactly 4 years as my time. So it's important, keep that decimal all the way through the end. Don't round it halfway through. So you solve that through, you find time is 4 years. So it's important to read the problem, understand what's given, and then follow the steps to solving that equation. So now you should be ready for the practice and then the checkpoint. Make sure you check in with me if you have any questions. I will keep the Google Meet open during class so that you can hop in and ask questions. I thought it worked pretty well last time. Just to keep on pace, I'd like to make sure you guys get through these lessons and are able to understand them, most importantly, okay? So you can move on to the practice in the lesson.